We've covered all of these. We haven't done this one yet. And we haven't done this one yet. Before we get into those two I just tabbed over, you're an Apple fan, and we should point out that Philip here just recently bought the machine that I bash on all the time, that is the Mac Pro. He bought what he thought was a 4-core and was absolutely ecstatic to find out that he got 2 extra cores for free. So it's any questions about the modern Mac Pro, you can easily bug Philip about them. I bash that thing all the time because I'm a big fan of custom builds, and I think it's a real mess-mash thing. But overall, it is an okay machine. It's just, I think it's a little cost prohibitive for what it is. But you bought the entry-level one. And my personal opinion of it's a little overkill for average user stuff, which means it's probably more. I don't know what kind of stuff you're doing with it. Overall, I'm guessing so far you've been happy with it.
Yeah. It's always been absolutely great. Although, having said what you were just saying about, for me, that's the next thing as an experimental thing at some point, is that I've got an old system that's 5 years old over there, and when Windows finally can't be put onto that system, when that's past it, then I think I do it. That's the next thing I intend to do, is to try and do one from scratch, because that's something I have got an interest in.
Yeah, well, actually, this comes to the other real problem I have with the Mac Pro. A lot of my criticisms with the Mac Pro are unfair, in that I'm asking it to be a true pro machine, which it isn't. It's in the league it is, and in the league it is. It's an okay machine. It's not a bad one. It's not the uber, oh, we're giving you everything but the kitchen sink one. But my real criticisms with the Mac Pro, and it's a little unfair. I will admit it's a little unfair, but it's a little unfair because of Apple's business model, and that is, if you want OS X, if OS X is your platform of choice, and if you're a Mac user, it clearly is, and you need a machine that's more than the Mac Pro, you're just screwed. You're stuck with figuring out a way to Frankentosh the Mac Pro into being a machine that it is not designed to, nor meant to, nor ever really intended to be. Or, against Steve Jobs' wishes, and directly in contradiction with the Apple philosophy, building an illegal Hackintosh. Which is an option, but it's not a legal option, and it's one of those things. I would not criticize the Mac Pro except on price compared to a custom build, which is also unfair, if OS X was legally licensed, so that if you need more machine, if you need a true pro machine, and the Mac Pro just doesn't do it for you, and you want to use OS X, if that's your preferred platform, you still could.
And also, to add one thing, I mean, yeah, I am like a fan of Apple and their products, but when I was considering buying it last year, what you just talked about there, that alternative did cross my mind. But the thing is that I thought back to when I had my Dell, and the thing is, I had problems with that, with several different things, and it was a real hassle chasing several manufacturers. So I thought, right, at least with Apple's side of things, you know, if anything goes wrong, you know who's responsible.
Well, and say that's the little bit there that I get a little bit of a bug up my crawl on that, and that is the fact that the thing, if you get inside an Apple machine, Apple didn't make all of that. You have an Intel CPU, you have a blah blah motherboard, you have a blah blah power supply, you have a blah blah memory. You have Apple did not make all of this hardware. Apple is an original equipment manufacturer. They got it from everybody who makes it. They assembled it together into a product and they sold it to you. Now, that being said, I will say that, like you say, there's some OEMs, Dell is one of them, that don't do as good a job at support as they should, because the reality is you bought it from them. They sold you the product. They're the ones who are all these different companies' customer, and they're your middleman intermediary between them, and all roads should lead back to them rather than blah blah. I will argue that as long as you're under your initial Apple Care warranty, Apple is great at that. Or if you bought the extended warranty while you're under that. However, once you get beyond that, I'm not sure Apple's any better than anyone else. They're like, yours is expired. Go buy a new machine.
Well, yeah, and when I'm making that example, how can I say, I'm not saying that what's in the Mac Pro isn't from other companies. No, I think anyone, who knows anything knows that. But the thing I'm thinking of is that when I got my Dell, obviously you get a keyboard and a mouse with PCs, or when you order them from big companies sometimes, or at least you do over here in the UK.
I have a stack of keyboards and mice that I got with systems that are like, well, if at any point I actually need a keyboard and mouse... But yeah.
And so from, so the system was from Dell, and the monitor was, but then the keyboard and the mouse were from Logitech. So when I first got it, there was a problem with the monitor, chased up Dell. A few months later, there was a problem with the mouse, and then I had to find Logitech, which their number was a nightmare to find.
Oh yeah, well the problem with that is Logitech is unofficially Microsoft, and that Microsoft owns them. That being said, I have a lovely Logitech mouse here.
I hope you've had better luck than I have.
Well, the reality is I've never had to call support, but I do not cheap out on my keyboards and my... This lovely Logitech mouse I bought here, when I bought it 6 months ago, because I finally needed a new mouse, was $75. It's now $100. Yeah, it's not a cheap mouse, but it's ergonomic. It's a 5-button mouse. It has some nice features. It just feels right in my hand. I don't cheap out on my UI. It's like usually on my keyboard and mouse, I spend somewhere between $120 and $300. So I don't cheap out with it, and I have never had a good success story with a $20 mouse. So believe me, I do get the appeal when it comes to the paying more for quality thing that is Apple. I do understand the concept. I just have a disagreement with it being the best fit for me. And then there's the stuff that goes with that.
But then, like I say, the thing for me was, like I say, the thing that pushed me and, was the final thing was, like I say, the fact that, yeah, there's other companies' parts inside it, but obviously the person you go to, if there's anything wrong with the actual system, the box itself is the manufacturer of that box. So the thing is I thought, and obviously then in Apple's case, the keyboard and the mouse are theirs as well. So it is one directional thing. Despite the fact there are other companies' parts inside, that's just how it usually works when there's something wrong.
Well, and that's the thing. It's from company to company to company to company, and it's the reality is there isn't a good OEM right now. And I count Apple as an OEM. It's just there's different things from different ones, and it's sad because I remember about 5 years ago there was not just a good OEM but 5 or 6, and now it's pay out the nose or buy crap, and that's not really a good choice. It's like that being said, there is some in between stuff, but it's gotten to the point where you have to be a tech person and a geek. The average user is out there going like a deer staring at headlights. It's just they're lost. Poor them. And that's not fair to them. But yeah, it's like, so overall, you've been happy with it. Did you ever manage to get in there and find out how many graphics cards you could put on it out of curiosity?
Yeah, because I am going to get some more RAM in the next couple of weeks. I probably will open it up then, because that was another thing that I did find interesting. What you were saying, as for one of the things that was a problem, was that there's supposed to be free RAM things going into the processor, and there's only the 2. Mm-hmm. so I can say, from that point of view, when you say it's not the thing it needs to be, I can see your point with that.
I have a feeling Apple will probably fix that at some point. But my problem with it is, you know, you're stuck buying the Apple brand, and I guarantee you they're not going to sell a sister board upgrade for your version of the Mac Pro. Their thing is going to be, no, buy the new Mac Pro. Buy the whole new Mac Pro.
Well, that's it. Well, or either that, or they won't tell you that it works, and the only way you'll know is by some people doing it by hand and taking it out and posting it on the forums. That's the only way you will know. Yeah,
you'll do some kind of a Frankentosh thing, but the problem is that's going to be a hard part to track down. It's like that sister board. That being said, though, I think there is a whole, I don't want to say Mac culture, but a sub-Mac culture. Because I've come across some of these things in which there's people who sell add-ons that are specifically designed for Macs to add current features to old Macs. like add extra hard drives to a Mac Pro, like upgrade sister board, and of course then Apple makes a change to the hardware where you can't do that anymore. But it's like,
well, like you say, so it becomes, because Apple won't do it, it's become a business for some people.
Yeah. I would honestly love to see Apple as a company embrace that subculture of Apple, and that is the people who are fans of Apple, rather than Apple see these people as, because if we're honest, Apple as a company does see these people as the enemy. It's like, these are people who are trying to get people's Macs to last longer because they're fans of Apple. It's like these people are the enemy. They're keeping people from buying brand new Macs. It's like, don't see them as the enemy. See them as your user base and your diehard fans. Because my honest philosophy is, no matter what the hell you do, at some point you're gonna have to buy a new computer. For some people, that's every year. For some people, it's every 3. For some people, it's every 4. For some people, it's every 10. Let them pick the cycle that's comfortable for them. And if you enable them to be as comfortable with the cycle that's their cycle, for their budget, for how they want to use a computer, and how obsolete they're comfortable with being for their user needs, you will find that is a lifetime customer. When you start attacking their ability to do things the way they want to, they start looking at other brands.
Well, that's the thing. I'm going to be interested to see from OS X's point of view how long can it actually run, because, like I say, from Windows' point of view, I think that can go about almost 5 years plus, I suppose.
Honestly, the big limiter on Windows is the motherboard. Windows has a thing upwards of 10 years. You bought a Mac Pro, so I'd be willing to bet OS X upgrades could probably realistically be installed on that thing for upwards of a decade too, because it's not like it's a piece of shit system. It's Xeon processors. You can put, you got the baseline, so I think 16 gig of RAM in there.
No, I put 3 in there, because that's one thing that is over expensive is the RAM.
Yeah, I know, but it's upgradable to 16 gigabytes.
Yeah.
So the reality is, as long as at some point in the next 3 years you buy 16 gigs worth of RAM for it, because it is DDR3, and I can't vouch for DDR3 still being the standard 5 years from now. That's one thing I do. Any system I buy, within 36 months of buying it, I make sure it's maxed out on RAM, because one thing is a constant. The form factor for the memory will change, and then you won't be able to buy it anymore. But as long as you do that before it happens, and you have a system that's really high up there, realistically, you can get a decade of use out of it. Now, is it going to be your primary system in 2020? Hell no. And you'll be laughing about the fact, this was state of the art in 2010, and now it's a piece of shit only fit to be a mail server.
the irony is, you're talking about a 10-year cycle there. I've already lived that with Windows 95.
Mm-hmm.
I've already done that. That's the first computer I ever had Windows 95, and because I wasn't tech savvy, I was at the time I was just using it for the simple stuff, and I ended up keeping it for 10 years until it was falling apart literally,
mm-hmm.
and then I got the Dell in 2005, so I've lived that 10-year cycle.
And the reality is, it just depends what type of tasks you're doing, what's going on, for depending on what you're doing. I mean, now, if you're a gamer or a video editor or somebody doing like really high-end programming like Maya and stuff like that, you're lucky to get 2 years out of a system.
And how far you push the resources.
Yeah, it's like you're always trying to get 120% out of your system, and as soon as you can actually get 120%, you need more system. That's the thing there. So.